Okay, folks, here we go. We're going to try something a little bit different. I don't know if it's going to work. It should work better. And this will be just kind of a test run here. And see if you guys have a little bit of a clearer picture. When it comes to some of this stuff right here. So we're connected through USB instead of through my Wi-Fi. So it should run smoother. We'll see if that really is the case or not. But one thing it does allow me to do is, say, put some figures here, out and here in the middle. See if I can pull this off successfully. And then pinch the screen and be able to zoom in on them. Now, let's see, am I able to zoom in more with this? I'm not, so that doesn't gain me anything. Okay, so if I do that, I'm a lefty today. Okay, so I changed that and that didn't work either. So let's go to here. Yeah, if I'm doing stuff with my left hand dominantly, something is wrong. And let's see, is this MIG or is it GIM? Oh, let's see here. Mirror image. Okay, there we go. There's still a little bit of a delay on it. Anyhow, okay, so if I wanted to get closer, then I literally have to bring it closer to the figures. And of course, the easiest thing would be just to move the figures around. Wow, the delay is just really throwing things off for me. Okay, we'd like to look at a different person. It's not that dude. Nah, it just can't be done. I don't have the skill set to do it backwards. I don't know. It's supposed to run smoother with a USB. I think it actually runs worse. Okay, well, enough of that. All right. Glenn, good evening. So we've got these guys done. We printed up some names, and I had to try to, it's been so long since I've done this, I don't remember what size font I used. But it's actually 6-point. 6-point, and I like using Arial Narrow. The narrow helps you because you need to kind of condense a little bit. So that is one thing that we need to do, but I am not necessarily convinced that I'm going to base these guys in the same manner of these. That's the same color I used for the tanks. I think the base color is a little too... I'm considering doing something like my Huns. And my Huns have a different base color. But it is kind of reddish. It's kind of a step color. So I think this is just too much red. I think it's the rocks that makes it exciting, honestly. So we'll put some rocks in there in the mix, but we're gonna go with the standard color. Yeah, because now once I look at it, it is a little too reddish. It probably would work. This color would actually work okay if I was doing like Soviets, because it is kind of a step look, because that's what these guys are. So, all right. So I took a look at that. Yeah, I'm not gonna go with this color. It's a little too much. All right. A little too much. Because I don't really want a ground color for Russia, a ground color for France. That's a little too all over the place. So this is actually what it looks like, but I think I need to bring it up a little bit more. There's too much of that, the chocolate brown base. So let's go ahead and let's do a couple things. Let's grab the wood that we use for the nameplate, which I wouldn't mind doing it in plastic, but I got the wood guarantees that it's all the same thickness, same height. It's this stuff right here. I've had this for so long, just kind of waiting in the wings. It's a stripped basswood. Let me know if it looks better than it has in the past. And I don't mean this screen up here in the top left-hand corner. I'm talking about the other screen, if it looks any better than it has in the past. Okay, let's just, there's no reason to go crazy, but it's got this weird bend in there. We're gonna stop short of that. Okay, and then we're going to paint all this in chocolate brown. Because I want to cut these things out and glue them after the background color is painted, because otherwise you got to be really careful painting around the name so that it doesn't catch the end of the paper and it's soaked all the color up, and then you got to print another one out. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but I'd like to do it right the first time. All right, this wood looks a tiny bit furry. Let's just take some of this off just to make sure that, because this is something I'm going to have to do over a couple of nights. Although painting wood, it dries pretty darn quick, so. All right, that should be good enough. It wasn't too bad. We're gonna grab the chocolate brown here. Put the glasses on so I could find it. There it is. Piece of cardboard. I did, and then I cleaned my room. it's warm in here. Yeah, this actually dries pretty quick, so. And I'm not worried about this thing warping. It really doesn't warp. I'm painting both sides, and they're very small strips that are going to have the person's name on them. I used to use green because I used green as the background color. Well, that's just stupid to do that now. We don't do things like that anymore. I'd be like, okay, we're going to paint the dirt green, and then we'll sprinkle stuff on it. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, we don't need to paint the bottom part. Because this is going to be epoxied in place. All right, so we're going to let that dry. That's the nameplate for these 5 fellows. I did see a video of some resistance fighters that had a vehicle. What was a coupe, and it was painted in, I don't know what color it was painted in. I'm gonna say like a green or something like that. But then it had like yellow oversprayed over it. I don't think I'm gonna make camouflage vehicles like that, like they commandeered it and had the time to paint it. But obviously it's not gonna be bright ass yellow either. So. And one of these, interestingly enough, this one actually has screws to take it apart. I'm not sure who this RV company is, but they decided to put screws on it, so it's going to make it a lot easier to do that. And we're going to have to paint these rims another color because that's just, or actually, technically, they would be, are they wheels or rims? I don't know. It depends on what it is, but we're going to repaint this. This thing actually looks like it comes apart, but because there's a gap and everything, but we will, there's some interior showing, so we're going to have to do that, but definitely need to make it a little bit more, less glossy looking for sure. Yeah, it's not going to take that much more on it, but we're going to put the goop on the base here. We're going to epoxy we're going to put we're going to take the names and we're going to glue them on there. And then we're going to epoxy them vertically back here. I like to put them almost towards the back of the figure because generally if you're running them, they're moving away from you. That's generally how I put them. And then we will goop around that. And then it will be painted. So, but we printed out the names that we picked plus a few other ones. And Australian Greg was asking me if I had any ladies. I do. I think I have 4. We got this guy this girl who is Panzerfaust Paulette. We know that for a fact. And then this guy's the lead. This one's the leader of the pack with a Molotov, or it looks like some kind of a leader. Here's another one with a Sten gun. Yeah. And I want to say there's one more. I want to say there's one more female. I could be wrong. Yeah, maybe it's just those 3. So 3 ladies and about 20 men. So How are we doing on this thing? Thing dry enough yet? Yeah, it's dry enough yet. So let's go ahead and snap it back here. I've had this stuff for 25 years, this wood. Oh, it's still a little wet there. Wow. That should do fine. All right, so we've got these 5 guys. We know what they're called. I don't know why the blade on this thing comes off so easy. Pearl Edge, made in the USA. Oh. Should behave a little bit better than that. I think it's a pretty sharp edge. All right, well, we'll find out here in a moment. All right. Let's get this out from under here and move this out of the way. And then we got the painting part out of here. It seems like I'm working on this tiny little corner of my desk. Everything I've got is encroaching on me. You know what? I'm going to replace this just for good measure. We don't want a snaggletooth type of cut on this. I'll leave that one there because we can use it for most things, just not cutting paper. All right, let's pull out the guys that we know, and it's this size here that we're interested in. So I'm going to cut them bigger than they need to be, and then we can trim them as we go. So we've got Pierre, Claude, Marc, Jacques, and Philippe. Oh look, they're all in a row. That's perfect. So we're just going to cut them bigger than we need them to be. Okay. And now we can dispense with this. All right. All right, let's do Maquis first because he's the smallest name. Why is this coming loose? Man. Okay, so there's Marc. And we're going to need to get Mr. Tweezers out here in a moment. This section. Not that one. There we go. Hey, Justin. Putting some names on these folks. You got to identify them somewhere. I think it's silly to use numbers because you can't put a number on a face. Although a prison guard probably would tell you otherwise. So this is Pierre right here. And then this should be, yep. we have Jacques. Hey, Nordic. Welcome, welcome. You know, these little remnants are a pain in the frickin' ass. And so's the fan, but it's worse to be hot. I'm done being hot for the night. I already went to work, went to the gym, took a shower. Okay, here's Claude. And Philippe. Got our convention coming up at the end of the week. And I don't have anything to bring. I have nothing to run, and I'm liking it. I had somebody contact me just today, said, hey, can you make an award for me? Nope, I cannot. One of the reasons I got burned out, doing a bunch of shit, and other people that were retired or so forth didn't do anything, so tough titty. Them days are over. I will go to shows, I will build things, but they won't be for the show, and I won't run something at the show. Because the last show I went to, I made an award and even took a picture of it and everything. At some point, it walked away. So there's obviously thievery going on there. I'm not taking my figures there and have something happen. So, might have been somebody who wasn't a member of our thing. Might have been just a passerby, but regardless, I ended up wasting my time working on something, and it was gone. Okay. And I don't know what it is. Everybody has like a hard on to freaking try to convert you into their rule set. Oh, you should try playing this. It's really good. I said, why don't you just leave me alone? I'm happy with the rule sets I have. You know? King Tiger versus M1 Abrams in a real battle. Not an even fight. King Tiger can take out an Abrams on the side, I bet, though. But I don't know. I bet if you switch crews, I bet if you put our adversary's crews in an Abrams, and you put our crews with the train they have in their tank, we would do better. Want to convert you to playing the rule set you already want to play. Yeah, did it work? Exactly. No, I actually like that the rule set that I'm going to use is not in print. That's a great idea. If nobody has a rule set, they can't tell you you're playing it wrong. And if there's something wrong with it, I'm going to freaking change it. I play 18 years a rule set that's like, well, we can't change it because that's how it is at tournaments. Fuck that. We're not doing that shit no more. King Tiger's gun won't get through the sidearm or the Abrams, just as tough as the front and rear. Well, then Frank Chadwick doesn't know what he's talking about. Because it will in combined arms. Pretty easily, too. Not the front. Forget the front. The front's just... Alright, so let's take one of these guys here. I don't want to use that one. I want to use the one that I specifically brought over here for. Let's do Mark first. Mark gets done first. Ooh, lucky Mark. No fumbling. All right. That's all we're doing. Philippe. The other advantage of not running stuff at conventions, you're not stuck playing with the people that showed up. There's just some people I don't want to play a game with. Sorry. Okay. And I'm specifically putting them more space in between them so that way I can trim up both ends. In other words, there's not going to be that much meat in between them, but Jacques. Blackjack shellac. King Tiger's had better paint schemes than Abrams. Sorry, I just not a fan of their paint schemes. Like I'd never build a model of an M1. Like why? Not saying it's a piece of crap. It just doesn't make me want to build a model of it. It's just kind of like doesn't do anything for me. Frank had to guess at that. The armor is classified on the Abrams. Well, look, an RPG's taking one out. So, it's possible. Somebody was telling me that I think I was reading somewhere that the vehicle rules and bolt action are really sucky. I have not looked at Zvezda 15 mil, so I don't do 15 mil. I like the price point on them. I do like the price point on Zvezda 15 mil. Sometimes I'll do a search for, 1/72 scale KV2 or something like that. and I'll get a recommendation like, oh, it's like $9 from Zvezda, cool. And then you look at it, and it's like, oh, it's 1/100. Like, why you tease me like that? I've never built a Zvezda, but I suspect the first Zvezdas I build will be Panther Ds. That will probably be the first Zvezdas I build. All right, we're going to, let's put this one in a special location. Okay, we threw this one over here. Would note bolt action vehicles I've never really played with them. Last time I played was one about 10 years ago. Yeah, I was reading what somebody said that they actually stopped playing that rule set because of the vehicles. That rule set, I can tell you, it's not for me. This is, I'm super anal when it comes to World War II. To the point where maybe nobody wants to play this game. That's fine. We'll film it. We'll film and I'll solo it. I don't have to worry about people tearing up my shit if nobody's here playing with me. But I do need to get to the point where I can get the game to run smoothly. So we are going to solo stuff before we get other people involved in it. Okay. All right, so we got this extra one. There's no reason to throw that away. And that's the size of the, and I'm not worried about the sides. I can paint the sides of the nameplate when they're on there. Let's cut this one down a little smaller. All right, so we've got our little nameplates here. Let's go ahead and glue them. And I like gluing them behind the figure. So like for instance, this is Philippe. It'll be glued back here. And it's unnecessary to use, I don't think you gotta use epoxy. I think super glue works just fine as soon as I can find it. Just another Maquis Monday, that's right. Yeah. Sundays are fun day. Ah, Snapdragon, there's not enough in here. Oh, fool with that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Oh, here we go. 1 second. Montana house really attractive in the 80s? Yes, but that was not the band she was in, right? Because that song's by not by the Bangles, it's by the Go-Go's. Ha! So Belinda Carlisle was very attractive in the 80s. Gotcha. Nope. No, I do not believe. I believe it is a Go-Go song. I could be wrong. Yeah, it's a Go-Go song because that has a lot of vibrato in it, which is. You sure? I could be wrong. You sure? Poopy diaper. I guess I'm gonna have to use this thing. How did I go through that much super glue? I had like all kinds of. I had all kinds of extra freaking super glue, and I'm down to freaking 2 of them. Well, I'm going to have to. I'm going to have to not do that then. Let's put this here for safety. And I had bought so much super glue, and I'm like, I'm never going to go through this. I got one of those multi-pack things. Like leaning it on the stand there. So it's got something to attach to. So that's what it's going to look like. Let that dry, probably goop it in the morning. Okay, this is Jacques. Okay, this guy, he's going that way, so let's put it 180 degrees behind him. I don't care if some of it comes up, as I'll be able to touch it up. I just don't want to have to touch up the area that is near the label. Okay, and that's Jacques. This guy is the guy we agreed was Mark. And it doesn't have to be exactly behind them. It really has no representation. But normally when you're playing, you're moving your guys away from yourself. So, you know, when your name comes up, you need to be able to see who the hell the guy is and not touch him and move him from his location. That's why I'm not a fan of labeling them underneath the figure. If you label them underneath the figure, you pick up the figure and you put them down somewhere else, you know, especially if you're a nefarious player. If you're a nefarious player, there's no telling what you're up to. Okay. Nope, I'm busy. I'm taking your word for it. You said it was 100% correct. There's no reason to check you. I just know that that song has a lot of vibrato in it, and I don't think her voice has vibrato in it. But I could be wrong. It's that song's not on my '80s Tony's Big '80s playlist, so you know. Let's see. There's no doubt it's one of those two, though. Nope, you're right. Okay, well, not the first thing I've gotten wrong today. I would put money on that. Penny bases, that's right. I remember my dad said, "Man, you're wasting so much money putting these on bases." I'm like, "You can't get something cheaper than this. You can't get something cheaper than this." And then you got the smart asses like, "Oh, you can't do that with money. You're debasing." Look, what you can't do is take a penny and then turn it into a freaking dime and try to pass it off. But this freaking money's mine, and it's not going back into circulation. These haven't been in circulation for 20 freaking years. You know? So. You can still bet on that. Nah, your credit's no good. I would have bet $20 on that. Did it all the time, yeah. What do you guys use in Europe? I mean, I guess there's a penny out there too, right? There's a British penny. I think it's a little smaller, but not significantly, you know. So we'll wait for these guys to percolate. These guys are going to get goop on them. There's some interesting things on some of the stands of these guys. This guy has like a brick wall. Okay, so that's kind of cool. If I don't cover that up accidentally, we'll probably paint it as a little brick wall. This guy's got something or another. But here's the beginnings of a bunch of guys that are caused trouble for the Germans. And they're very heavily armed. Because you got 5 guys, and 4 of them have Sten guns. British penny a bit smaller. 2 penny too big. Yeah. Yeah, and they should be consistent shape. You know, close. I mean, some are more worn than others. This is so. This is what got me putting figures on pennies, anyways, and then popping them off when I did 15s as a temporary stand because I was using them as a permanent stand for this. Speaking of permanent stand, here is. These guys have been through the ringer or not. This is the second figure I ever painted. And I probably painted this guy around 1993, something like that. Let's see. Oh, that's right. I can. What the hell happened here? No, I can pinch. I found that out. I can pinch. I changed some settings and I got to pinch vertically. All right. There we go. Oh fuck! Which way to move it? No, leave that alone. We'll move the dude. It's near him. Okay. Here we go. This is a figure by Platoon 20. And you can see that I used a different formula for the face color. And it's not a very good quality figure. This is a figure I'm not going to use. I'm not going to redo or anything like that. This is just kind of like, oh, I had this guy laying around. This is what they used to look. And one of the first guys I painted, this guy has a long history. His name actually fell off. This corny looking dude right here. His last name was Kraus, so we used to call him Cartoon Kraut. And he's actually a guy that when my wife and I were dating, she actually stole him and like took him back with her. So there's kind of a history of this guy. But these guys were painted in the early 90s, definitely. Am I going to stream your game? Absolutely. It's just going to take me a little while to get started. Yeah, the streaming helps me because it forces me to not be able to walk away from it. But I do need to do a little bit of homework. I've played the game before, okay, but it's been many years, and it is the opposite of DBA. Everything is nothing is abstracted, pretty much. So, yeah. So these two guys are going to stay, how they are. They're not. They don't look very good, but there's history for them. But anyways, when I stopped painting them, they looked like they started looking like this. This is a Battlefield Miniatures guy. As soon as I can find where the camera is, much better quality figure. The only thing that is kind of rough on them is the basing that is done. You see, he doesn't have any hand detail here. Some of their details hit or miss. I'm not putting the splinter camouflage on the Zeltbahn. When I do Zeltbahns, I just do that color and call it a day. So, and this is Kellner. But this basing, we had no internet to compare ideas. So this is just probably painted with Poly S, go in Woodland Scenics, and left to dry, and that was it. So these figures will eventually get redone, but just the basing part on them. Actually, I'll probably even keep the names. I'll just pop it off and, and do it. What miniatures did I use? The legend of Kellner lives on. What miniatures did I use for Command Decision? GHQ. GHQ, all the way. I just don't like infantry. I don't like the infantry rules in Command Decision. Now, if I was really into Command Decision, I could probably play, dress them up a little bit. Nobody's climbing over each other to play an infantry battalion. It's basically is that they just don't, in the infantry stand, it's only 2 figures on a stand. Like, it doesn't have enough oomph to it, So there's a guy who actually has. I should sue him. No. I'd challenge him to a duel before I'd sue him. He has a YouTube channel called Nerd Burglars. And as far as I'm concerned, I invented that word. I don't even know how I invented it, but there's things I hear that somebody else comes up with that I confiscate. That is not one that I confiscated. So let me put a hat on because I've got freaking. I don't want to put anything in my hair. Go to sleep with a nasty head. I hate 6mm infantry also. Yeah, I don't like that stuff a lot yet. Nerd burglar, that's right. All right, I think these guys have dried enough that I can go and goop them. Let's goop these guys. It's not like it's a whole lot of goop. We need a spatula oblongata. Here we go. Let's use that. And man, we're going through this stuff like it's going out of style too. It's good to use things. And so what happens when you do freaking 70 something vehicles? You're gonna go through them. All right, let's zoom the hell out of this thing. Nope, wrong pinch. Come on. No. Here we go. So we don't dig into this thing deep. Let's scoop some of this stuff up and leave it at the top. I actually played the demo for Fallout and it just did not appeal to me. I didn't like the look of it. I actually liked the premise. I didn't like the look of it. It was kind of the same problem I had with that whatchamacallit game that you said you should unfriend me for not liking. You should have better friends. What was that one that I said? Morrowind. Yeah, the same thing. It was just too much of the same. It's like there wasn't enough different sprites, or it all just looked. I was bored playing it. Maybe it's a Bethesda thing. Maybe Bethesda and I don't get along. Mod Podge, no, this is Vallejo ground texture. Works pretty well. I was using the Liquitex stuff, and then they stopped making it because it was not a sustainable material. Like we were going to kill everybody on Earth because we're using this tiny little amount of this stuff. But they stopped making it. So I had to find something else to use. And I actually like this stuff better. But the only reason I switched from the Liquitex is they made me do it. They stopped manufacturing it. I could probably make my own with grit, but at some point, you got to delegate duties. You can't just do everything yourself and, manufacture everything yourself. So that is what I decided to do, and I've been really happy with this stuff. Come on, get it in the right direction. There we go. Can you guys tell any difference from before? Is the quality of the big screen better? It's connected through USB. I had a friend of mine came by yesterday, not related to specifically for that, and I was talking about it. He's like, "Oh, there's got to be a way you can connect through USB." I said, "Well, I tried before and it wouldn't let me. So maybe they've added other things to it." And one thing before this thing dries, we need to get the rocks. No, that one. Also not that one. One of these I have started. There we go. I did see somebody did an unboxing the other day of the Masters of Universe set, and I was like, that looked pretty cool. Nah, I'm just saying that because I want to do the voices. These might actually be too big. Some of these may be okay. I don't need to put a whole lot, just something to add some variety here. There's a happy little rock growing right there. Another one right there. Let's pick them up. Let's make sure none of this is overhanging the stand. I don't like that. And Philippe is good to go. Okay. Did a standing dude. Let's do another standing dude. My royal boob. Okay. Well, at least I'm royal. Huh. Huh. As long as I get to be blue blood, I don't care what part of the body you want to call me. The the interface of games is big to me. If I don't like the interface of a game, I don't want to play the game. You know, it just becomes very difficult to play the game. Those the John Tiller games, I can't stand his interface. Now I know it's related to like the Eastern Front games and the Talonsoft games. I don't know if it's the same guy, but I liked it okay when it was the Talonsoft. But something about the John Tiller games, I just can't get into them. You know, they got like menus and they're difficult to look at, the menus. You know? And that just might be, you know, the way certain game companies do stuff. Like I pretty much like almost everything Blizzard touches, except the Overwatch stuff. I played that. And it's like, I'm not into that. But I like the way Blizzard does things. That was Skeleton's line he used on the King of Eternia. I knew you're done painting a tribe of kobolds. Don't ever want to paint another kobold ever. Are they old school kobolds? I guess Games Workshop doesn't have any kobolds. Their kobolds would be equivalent to their goblins, right? I guess their kobolds would be gobos. Because there aren't any... I don't think there's goblins in standard old school D&D. Did he do War in the East? No, that's Grigsby. And I haven't played it. I don't mind counter games, but that's the way to do them. Because you can like, okay, I want the scenario set up, and it's set up. And like, you want to save it? Bam, saved. Correct. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't think so. Kobolds are basically the gobos. Because traditional ones were like, they were like dogs or something like that, if I remember correctly. I remember from old Keep on the Borderlands. I would play fantasy if it was in a miniatures game. You know, like the thing Rick does with his, what is it, Dicey Depths or whatever you call it? I don't know if is it Dicey Depths? I don't know, the stuff you have. It's got to have miniatures. I'm okay with things being fantasy. And I prefer fantasy to science fiction. You know, because fantasy is just fantasy. Anything goes and everything's okay unless magic's too powerful. Okay, then it's a no-go for me. But science fiction can be like, even science fiction I like Battletech, has weird stuff in it. Like, you know, it's in the future. Okay, cool. And there's this. Okay, that's cool. And we have spaceships. All right, that's cool. Oh, yeah, but the vehicles, they can't hit something that's 200 meters away. It's too, like, it's you know, it's inaccurate at that range. I'm like, shit, we got stuff that's more accurate than that, you know? Goblins have always been standard Dungeons and Dragons monsters. Really? Well, I don't remember them. I still say yip yip when the kobolds come out. What game is it that had kobolds in it? It's oh shit, what's that one called? The one that I really liked, and then it threw me freaking magic arrows and I couldn't get past it. Baldur's Gate. Full plate and packing steel. I remember that. That was back in the only thing that was like that was like, I think Diablo 1 was out. And Baldur's Gate allowed you to put on a thing that looked a certain way, and it looked a certain way on your character as well. And I'm a big fan of that. Dynamic weaponry. Dynamic equipment. Not to be confused with ragdoll physics. That's those words that you didn't know anything about until you started playing video games. Ragdoll physics. What's that mean? Well, what does he think it means? Because that's exactly what it means. Go for the eyes, boo. Go for the eyes. I haven't played that in 30 freaking years. What was his name? Glimt? He had a really short name. I actually liked that game quite a bit. The coolest fantasy type of game like that's not Diablo, because I'm a huge Diablo fan, was one called Dungeon Siege. And I've mentioned it here before. You may not have listened to it, Spencer, when I was mentioning it. But what was unique about that game is you just got to pick whether you're male or female. That's it. Okay, it was the 2000s. You didn't get there were no third or fourth or seventh option. You get to play you either male or female. And I think your character started with like a spell, and like a bow and like a butter knife or something like that. That's all you had. And then you basically created your own class. So you started using that spell, you got experience from it and experience from using spells, and all of a sudden you could read better spells. You started doing well with the sword, you started getting better at the sword. So you, instead of saying, oh, I'm going to play a wizard, and then like, okay, now what do I do to do the wizard thing? Oh no, you've already figured it out because you decided to go in that route, You have it. Okay. That was the game that I got it from my first computer, and I think that game came out around 2003, something like that. And I really liked it. I really liked it. You could get other people in your group, but you were playing one person. I think if that person died, it was over, but there's goblins in that, and that's the first time I encountered goblins that had the technology. Kind of how they did. They had steam stuff, and they had firearms and that kind of stuff. It was the goblins that got that stuff. I don't know how the game would be now. I really liked it. Now, I don't know that it had a lot of replay value because I don't think the dungeons were different every time. They didn't get scrambled. I think they were linear, but I really enjoyed it. And I like that concept of just start using stuff, and that's what you'll be good at, I like that idea. I wish more games had that kind of thing. But unlike movies, sequels of video games are normally better. The storyline may not be as good, but either the graphics or your options on the gameplay will always be better. Unlike movies, which sequels are almost always worse. Crusaders of the Dark Savant is fun. Never played it. Then, if you want to really go back far, there's a game that took me forever to figure out what the name of it is, and I may have already forgotten the name of it as well. It was called Darklands. Turbine made those games funded by Microsoft. Yeah, I never was able to finish it because it was too much for my computer at the time. And my computer at that time was already 5 or 6 years old, and it was top of the line when I got it, but you know how they always push the things. There was a game, I think it was called Darklands, and I think it was made by Microprose, and it was set in 1500s Germany, and you had this party. This is like old school EGA graphics. Basically, you had to, go, and all the money was florins, and you had to go to the bank. The bankers were thuggers, and everything was set like in the 1500s in the Holy Roman Empire, and you had to solve this conspiracy that was going on, that basically the Teutonic Knights were devil worshippers, and you had to fight Baphomet at the end. And even with the shitty EGA graphics, it was still a little spooky at the time. But What was unique about that is that you could create your little crest, your little shield for your guys. You know, you had limited things you could do with it, and obviously the graphics were very primitive. But Darklands, I had a friend of mine who really liked that game. Ultima, oh man, he had a freaking Woody for Ultima. You know, it's like I don't mind doing grindy stuff, but at some point the effort you're putting into it isn't worth it. Like if you're going down to Ultima and you're, you know, killing trolls or whatever the hell those creatures were, and then you're taking their spears and going back and selling their spears. Their spears only sell for like a gold each. Like I could be doing something that's generating a hell of a lot more cash than that. You know, if you're doing a mission where you have to kill those amount of creatures, okay, you got to do it, okay? But after that, it's like, dude, play something that's a little bit more challenging. He had all the dungeons in Ultima mapped on graph paper. I never really cared for Ultima. It reminded me kind of a Nintendo game, like a Zelda or something like that. And I am not a Nintendo fan, sorry. Their games just aren't violent enough. I'm a devout pacifist all the time. I want to play violent video games, you know? So my brother actually had a Nintendo. I never did. Oh, come on. All right, let's make sure this is... And we're not going to use static grass on this. We're going to use only tufts. So most of this is going to be dirt / rocky colored. Looks a little better that way, I think. Okay. Jacques is next. Black Jacques Shellac. Yeah, if the game has an interface, it's just difficult to deal with. What's the worst video game you guys have played? There's a lot of them. But the one, in my opinion, that comes up recently and I remember is a game called Watch Dogs. What a horrible freaking game. What I think constitutes a good video game is one you've completed, and then you've gone and replayed it with multiple characters at different difficulty levels and completed it again. That's what I think is a good video game. If you're like, you know, Mule, never heard of it. Diablo, idiot. Breath of the Wild. If somebody plays Diablo and thinks it's the worst, the problem with playing with other people is you got to find them, and you know maybe you got a half hour to kill, right? It doesn't work. So it's really kind of geared towards people that have the whole freaking day off. Didn't like Assassin's Creed game. Why? Now I've only played the pirate one and the Greek one for any amount of time, and I thought they're pretty. I mean, they have a lot of stuff that I like. Like I like the. I wonder what the hell's up there. So march your happy ass out there and find out. You know. I don't like stuff that's linear, and they're not very linear. You could do things out of order, and sometimes it's too difficult, and you get your ass killed. Okay, well you can't do that, but you know. Um, Watch Dogs was horrible. Um, I can't think of anything else. This just everybody liked XCOM. I never played it. Um, I thought their stories were bad, and the warping of history offended me. Okay, fair enough. Um, every time I join that game, they take me away to the present day. Also, the combat's kind of annoying. The Greek one was alright because I like the theme, yeah. And the girl's cute too. Hey, that helps. Just saying, you know. So you're playing it, half the time you're like, man, she's really fine. And the other half of the time you're like, man, I better do what she says. Or she's going to whoop my ass. It is beautiful. The scenery in it is beautiful. It may not be accurate, but. And I like the Greek thing, the theme. Man, I'm playing the freaking catacombs because I have this. My favorite fantasy creature are minotaurs. I've always been fascinated by them. But it's kind of like like a scared fascination. So I'm in the labyrinth trying to find it. And I'm expecting to come out at every corner, and it was ended up being kind of anticlimactic, the battle with it. But oh man, I was so stressed out. Like my feet were freaking sweating. I remember it was like, man, what the hell? What character are you talking about? When you play the Greek one, you can play either a girl or a dude. Obviously, I played the attractive female. Duh. Get to see her running around the whole game. And the funny thing is you play it, and I hate Alcibiades even more because he's in the game. I hate that guy. I didn't complete any of his. I did every mission. You have to do missions and stuff like that because the game is kind of split between factions, people that are allied with Sparta and people that are allied with Athens, and you've got to kind of do both of them, but to kind of get the story to move along. But Alcibiades, what an asshole. In real life, I mean, I didn't like that guy either. He sucked. Not a fan. I don't like games where you have to skulk around, and if you get surprised, you don't stop and you have to restart that thing again. Like I'm fine like hiding, but shit goes sideways. And maybe it's difficult to fight your way out, but you can fight your way out. But the fact that if it's a game that's like, oh, you've been found, stop. That's why I never liked Splinter Cell. Splinter Cell, okay, you got your little headgear, you got your Beretta pistol with one magazine. Okay, fair enough. But you take somebody out and you can't take his ammo, you can't do anything. You can't even like restock the pistol that you came with. It's like, okay, I take out somebody's got 9mm, can I at least reload my magazines? No. Or my magazine, because you only had one. You got 15 rounds and that's it. Not my kind of game. Now, one game that I thought was actually pretty decent was the Tomb Raider. Now, I know there's a million Tomb Raiders, but this is the one that was in Japan. And I think it was a game that I got free or something like that through Gold or something like that. I thought it was a pretty freaking good game. And there was parts in that one that were pretty spooky. Because they got like freaking demons and shit like that. And you crash on this island, this Japanese island that was an old base. So you've got relics of World War II stuff in there. And, there's the storyline that goes along with, it's almost like a Bermuda Triangle in an island. Like nobody can get to it, nobody makes it back. It's just like shipwrecks everywhere. It has to do with, what they've got going on in the plot. But there's all this World War II stuff on there as well, and I thought it was done pretty well. You're meant not to kill in those games. Not interested. Nope. I don't kill every day. Why can't I be violent virtually? And that's an old school game. I don't know if they remade something like that would even sell worth a damn. That sounds like the movie Matango. I don't know that one. You talking about the Japanese? It's actually a really good theme. It's actually a really good theme, and I don't know which one it is because they do a really poor job of relay name. I never played the game way back when. I never played the Tomb Raider when she had the frickin' triangular boobs, the old school one, because the controls were terrible. The controls were really, really bad. But I guess the one I played came out like 2015 or something like that. It makes me want to play that game. I played another game with it. Dude, it's a good game. It's a really good game. It really is. It surprises me. It surprises me. And they should have gotten the girl who did her voice and all the, because all that stuff's done with, one of those suits with the little balls on them so they can, like, monitor all the movement and stuff like that. The girl that they did for that, they should have cast for the movies, not the person that they got, but nobody asked me, Tomb Raider 2013. It's a great game. It's probably available super cheap now. If you're into that Japanese stuff, it's pretty cool. And it's one of those that's like, I need to get something. Oh, there it is up there. How the fuck am I going to get up there? So it's kind of like a puzzle, along the way. It's my kind of game. I finished it. It got pretty hairy at times. I haven't played the sequel after that one is one that's like in Russia, and I think there's some not superstitious. There's some it might be superstitious. There's some mythological stuff in that one as well. I don't know much about it. That whole Baba Yaga thing with the house with the freaking legs, witch crap. I don't know anything about it. All I know is that I've seen that. I'm like, dude, how much vodka these guys had, Yeah, I think it's a pretty decent game. Chicken Leg Hut, yeah. Yeah, I don't know what I don't know what the hell's going on there. That's some they're smoking something. That might be a story that everybody knows about except me. I don't really know anything about it. Other than I've seen it, I'm like, what? Come on. But that's kind of the sequel of it, done in the same style or whatever. I have not played that one, but the Japanese one was cool. I recommend it. You know, it doesn't have a lot of replay value. You play it once, okay, you're done, you know. Had to look up Baba Yaga. I don't know jack shit about it. But that part of the world, Eastern Europe, are notorious for superstitious. Being superstitious. Notorious for that. You know, what the game looks like makes a big difference. Like, everybody's raving about this second front that just came out. It's supposed to be like ASL. I don't like how it looks. And it doesn't, it's not that it looks basic, because I like how Battle Academy looks. I like how Battle Academy looks a lot. And this doesn't look as good as that. Boshin War was expansion, just came out for Fire and Maneuver. What's Fire and Maneuver? I mean, it sounds familiar. It just doesn't ring a bell. That's not that Fire and Sword, is it? I never did play the Romance of the Three Kingdoms Total War much. It was too complicated. It was like they wanted me to handle too many different things. It's like, I played it some and I'm like, holy hell, this is just. And then some of those games, I'm like, if I want to challenge myself, I won't fight any of the battles. Because the battles, you can pull things out of your ass and win, you know, thankfully. Different than Fire and Sword, Fire and Maneuver is a video game made by the Armchair Historian. YouTuber, it's about the wars before World War One. Oh. Haven't heard of it. Haven't heard of it. I'll be right back. I gotta go to the restroom. Baba Yaga returns. You've been playing frickin' Xanadu. Does that have roller skating in it? Xanadu I get mixed up with. I hear Xanadu and I put Xanadu in the same category that I put Shangri-La in. We're just going to put one rock there. Call that guy done. And now, Pierre. The first shall be last. Figure-atively is just an NES fantasy game. Oh, I'm not familiar with it. Actually, I don't even know what that... Is that the original Nintendo? The NES? Yeah, because I guess the next one was the Nintendo 64. It had that weird controller, although I didn't think it was very uncomfortable. The super weird controller was in Television. Remember in Television? In Television with a freaking, like a disc? I always wanted one of those. I mean, we're talking like, 1981. I always wanted one of those because they had a sea battle game. I was already into battleships then. I'm like, I wanted to play with battleships. Even though hokey ass game, probably. The original Nintendo. Next one was Super Nintendo. Okay. Yeah, my brother had an NES. I don't like jumping games. Ones where you have to do some crazy jump and you could try it so many times and you die, you have to start over. I'm like, no. No, what did I do wrong? Why this penance for me? I take it you played on the NES, you played Romance of the Three Kingdoms, didn't you? That's how I first found out about it. As a friend of mine had it. He's like, who's this Cow Cow guy? No, it's Sao Sao. I'm like, why is it spelled Cow Cow? Oldest console I had was Atari 2600. Yep, I had one of those, but I wasn't one of the cool kids. I didn't get it when it came out. I got it around like 85 or something like that. I remember going to Rite Aid. Rite Aid would sell the cartridges for like $2.99 or something like that. You get games for $2.99 at Rite Aid. I wasn't particularly good at any of them except one that came out and was called Sequest. It was made by Activision. It was submarines. You had this submarine that you had this screen that was if you went out one side, you came out the other one, and you basically had to like destroy these animals and pick up scuba divers and stuff like that. And I remember in the instructions said if you made a score of like 75,000 or something, whatever the score was, you could contact Activision. They'd send you something. They'd do something to you, give you a lap dance or something. I don't know what it was, but it was something. And I remember I got like 4 times the high score or even more than that. It was some absurd thing. It's the only video game that I've just been like, pinball wizard on. So. I can't even picture what the Super Nintendo looks like. Did it have like it had like purple stuff on it, right? I mean, it was the standard Nintendo color, which is kind of like not too different than this, and it had like purple buttons and things, wasn't it? The system I really liked was the Sega Genesis. That's the one I really liked. I liked the controller. I liked the games that came out for it. I loved that Star Control game. Loved it. Didn't own one though. I'd go over to a buddy of mine's house to play that Star Control. That's a science fiction game. Purple power and reset switches. Okay, and that's Pierre. Get a little bit of water here. You guys notice the screen a little bit better? A little bit less lag? This big screen here, this one right here. See if it made a difference connecting through USB or it was just pissing in the wind. It really didn't matter. Okay, so we got these guys right here. They don't look like much, but big screen's definitely less laggy. Okay, that's good. I don't know if the resolution's any better, but anyhow, so these guys, the next thing will be wait for them to dry and paint them the base color. And let's see, we can. It's like a half-second delay between what you do on the small screen and the same thing happens on the big screen. Okay. Yeah, I wish I could flip them. I wish I could. I could. It's just the problem is the big screen, the one that's up here in the corner. I would have to mount the computer here, and I can't because it's in the way of the light and the paints and everything else. But that's really where it need to be, and then we could have that one running, the big one. But it's always something, isn't it? Okay, so here we've got the usual suspects here. And yeah, well, we're gonna cut it off for the night because it's about 10:20, and we gotta work. Claude looks like a troublemaker. They're all troublemakers. Every single damn one of them. That's their whole purpose in life, is to cause trouble. So, but anyhow, thanks for stopping by, folks. We'll catch you on later in the week. We got the convention on Friday, Saturday, and you know, we'll do some videos of that. Hopefully, that's what the plan is, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.